Welcome to Chapter 12, The Flight Back. This chapter details Dr. Anna Mamikonian's journey to uncover historical truths while flying to New York. Anna and James board Delta Flight 73 to New York. The first-class cabin is quiet, but both are wired with adrenaline. Laptops are opened immediately as Anna insists they work the entire flight. Warm towels and champagne signal the start of the journey. James observes Anna immediately typing, accessing historical documents via instant Wi-Fi. She declares they are starting their work immediately. Anna accesses the Edward L. Bernays Papers collection online. Thousands of scanned documents are displayed. She filters the results using keywords like Kemal and Turkey, instantly finding several relevant document hits. The Bernays Turkey 1922 file describes a modernization narrative strategy for rebranding a nation for Western legitimacy. The PR strategies mirror Kemal Ataturk's public speeches, showing Bernays coached Ankara leadership remotely. In the Bernays Public Opinion file, Bernays outlines propaganda techniques for emerging states. He suggested using symbolic leadership and heroic narratives for military figures, a blueprint closely mirrored by Kemal Ataturk's rise. Bernays' PR strategies influenced British messaging, and British diplomats advised Kemal using these methods. Kemal Ataturk's public relations mirrored Bernays' blueprints, forming a triangular influence that shaped his Western image. Bernays' strategies heavily influenced British diplomatic messaging. British memos referenced his American PR science. The UK used these techniques to craft Kemal Ataturk's Western legitimacy, later appearing in Turkish propaganda. Anna compares Kemal's 1923 public speeches with Bernays' writings. She finds identical rhetorical structures, confirming a direct influence rather than coincidence. Next, Anna accesses the Woodrow Wilson papers, searching for 14 Points and Armenia. She finds internal memos that contradict Wilson's public statements. Advisors warned the 14 Points were political tools, never intended to be enforced. Internal staff memos confirm the idealistic language of Wilson's 14 Points was for domestic appeal and public morale. Advisors saw them as political tools, lacking a drafted plan for implementation or enforcement. Wilson privately admitted his points were only quote, aspirational and not binding policy. The 14 Points lacked military or diplomatic backing, and Allied leaders privately dismissed the idealistic American language. Wilson's internal memos show the 14 Points were political tools, not binding policy. Wilson privately admitted the U.S. would not intervene. The Senate's refusal to accept the mandate ultimately left Armenia exposed. Anna opens the 1919 King Crane Commission report. The commission toured the Near East, recommending independence and warning of Turkish aggression. The findings urged an immediate U.S. mandate for Armenian protection. The King Crane findings reported that Armenians overwhelmingly desired independence, while the Turkish population strongly opposed it. The commission warned the world of future violence and urged an immediate American mandate for protection. The report criticized British diplomatic duplicity and inaction, noting the active formation of Turkish nationalist militias. It predicted the continuation of the Armenian genocide and urged immediate international protection. The King Crane Commission observed British favoritism toward Turks and noted Turkish forces were manipulating the situation. They predicted the imminent collapse of the Armenian state and urged Allied leaders to intervene. The King Crane report was suppressed by the U.S. State Department. Policymakers found the findings politically inconvenient and too costly. The recommendations for Armenia were never implemented, and U.S. isolationism left Armenia defenseless. The King Crane report, deemed too costly and politically inconvenient, was deliberately suppressed. Recommendations for Armenian protection were ignored, as the U.S. chose isolationism, leaving Armenia defenseless. Anna then turns to General Harbord's 1919 report. Harbord documented massacres and destruction in Anatolia and urged an immediate U.S. mandate for protection. This critical evidence was ultimately suppressed by policymakers. General Harbord confirmed ongoing anti-Armenian violence in his 1919 report. He warned of Turkish nationalist resurgence and future invasions, strongly urging immediate Allied intervention and protection, documenting vast destruction. The Harbord report criticized British diplomatic inaction and noted British military support for Turkish militias. Harbord warned Armenia would collapse without immediate aid and urged the United States to accept the Armenian mandate. Harbord documented ongoing Armenian starvation and destroyed infrastructure. He noted Turkish forces actively regrouping for conflict and chronicled the Armenian army as exhausted, detailing the death of the nation in his report. The Harvard report was suppressed by U.S. policymakers who considered intervention too costly. Recommendations for Armenian protection were ignored, and the United States' choice of isolationism sacrificed Armenia. U.S. policymakers suppressed the Harvard report, viewing intervention as too costly. Protection recommendations were ignored, resulting in the United States' isolationism, which sacrificed Armenia. The King Crane and Harvard commissions accurately predicted and confirmed the serious Turkish threat. President Wilson ignored these warnings. British actions exploited this diplomatic vacuum, creating a chain of betrayal. International powers deliberately abandoned Armenia after World War I. U.S. isolationism ignored protection recommendations from King Crane and Harvard. British policy and PR strategies supported hostile Turkish forces. Every major Allied power betrayed their commitments. The First Republic of Armenia, born in 1918, was dependent on Allied World War I promises. Surrounded by hostile forces, the state was destroyed after every major Allied power ultimately betrayed its commitments. Bernays' PR strategies influenced British diplomatic messaging, and British advice to Kemal mirrored these methods. This triangular influence shaped Kemal Ataturk's Western image and facilitated the abandonment of Armenia. British diplomatic messaging was heavily influenced by Bernays' PR. The UK crafted Kemal Ataturk's favorable Western image and policy favored Turkish forces, ignoring the King Crane report. Allied leaders dismissed Wilson's idealistic language. The Bolsheviks promised protection but delivered occupation. Illegal treaties traded Armenian territory, using Armenia as a bargaining chip for a Turkish alliance. Imperial Russian policy continued under the new regime. Tsarist policies promised autonomy but exploited and abandoned Armenians. The Bolsheviks continued this same imperial policy, using Armenia as a bargaining chip for a Turkish alliance. Bernays' strategies shaped influential British public relations, which shaped Kemal's Western image. Kemal's rise facilitated the GNA forces' actions, ultimately destroying the First Republic. Bolshevik treaties sealed the collapse. The synthesis shows Bernays' strategies influenced British PR, which shaped Kemal's Western image. Kemal's rise enabled the GNA to destroy the First Republic, with Bolshevik treaties cementing the nation's final collapse. This reveals a systemic failure. Wilson's 14 points were political tools, the King Crane warnings were ignored, and the Harvard report was suppressed. Armenia was willfully abandoned due to this systemic failure by leaders. Anna finds a Bernays letter detailing Near East narrative management and suggesting heroic framing for Ankara leadership. The content perfectly matches Kemal Ataturk's propaganda efforts. British memos cite Bernays' PR, which was mirrored in Turkish newspapers. The UK crafted Kemal's favorable Western image, while Armenia was strategically portrayed as unstable, a form of political narrative warfare. Wilson's idealistic 14 points lacked enforcement mechanisms. Allied leaders privately dismissed them, and internal memos show they were political tools. The U.S. withdrawal left Armenia exposed. All three critical reports, King Crane and Harvard, aligned perfectly on the imminent threat, urging immediate protection. President Wilson's administration ignored all warnings, and U.S. isolationism left Armenia completely exposed. The First Republic of Armenia was surrounded by hostile forces. The nation's independence was destroyed by invading GNA forces after every major Allied power betrayed their commitments. The Bolshevik occupation sealed the republic's fate. Anna experiences a profound emotional breakthrough as the vast scope of the political betrayal becomes clear. The evidence reveals a systemic failure of leaders, and she realizes the tragic cost of this isolationism. The long flight is finally approaching New York City. James and Anna have completed their research, feeling both exhausted and exhilarated. The plane begins its final descent for landing,